Hi, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Mike and my wife's name is Louise, and the channel is I Traveler's Life Abroad. We're Canadians living in Cuenca, Ecuador for the last 2 years. We recently purchased a 2014 Volkswagen Tiguan, and the experience was a bit of a hair puller, so we'd like to tell you all about it. Stay tuned.
Let me show you a place where you gon' wanna move your feet until they start to bleed.
So we got into a 2014 Volkswagen Tiguan, as I've mentioned, and it wasn't cheap because used vehicles hold their value, but we'll get into that later. So as many of you know, I'm a motorcyclist and I've done some trips and I've done videos, and you may know that my wife has come along, and you also may know that she's had some surgeries to her shoulder, and unfortunately, motorcycling is no longer in her future. So I mentioned that used vehicles in Ecuador hold their value, and the primary reason for that is that there's a 25% import tax on new vehicles. So that makes it that used vehicles will maintain a higher value throughout their lifetime. If you're familiar with the Kelly Blue Book, that's used in North America to determine the value of a used vehicle, well, you're going to pay double that value in Ecuador. And also let it be known that there's no consumer protection laws in Ecuador. So you got to beware for like odometer rollbacks. And even if you're to buy from a dealership, they don't have this certified used vehicles as you would be used to in North America. So even if a vehicle's on the lot, it could require quite a bit of money in order to bring it up to snuff in order for it to pass inspection and to get licensed here in Ecuador. We were lucky. We bought this used 2014 Volkswagen Tiguan. We bought it from an American that was returning to the States, and the person had already spent quite a bit of money in order to make it, viable. But we found out in the end that it still required about $1,800 of work, uh, and you know that's a bit of money. But know that the labor rates are really reasonable here, and so most of that value was in fact just for parts. So let's talk about the dealership experience in Ecuador. And in this case, I had corresponded with the previous owner because they had it on consignment at a dealership. And so I indicated to them that I'd like to have a look at the vehicle. So I went over to the dealership and I met with one of the salespeople there, and he popped the hood. I wanted to look at the engine first, and I noticed that the battery was dead. So I asked if he had a booster pack, and off he went, came back with a booster pack. We got started. Good sign. So I asked, can I go for a test drive? He said, sure. So I turn around and I go to my motorbike, grab my driver's license, and I hear the motor is off, and I'm asking myself, why would you turn the motor off if the battery was dead? Well, he didn't actually turn it off. It conked out, but I didn't know that at this point. So I asked him, can you boost it again? And he said, well, my booster pack is doesn't have enough charge, and off he goes. A new fella arrives with a different booster pack. We try to boost it. It's not starting. And the young fella goes, he says, there's no fuel. And I go, what do you mean there's no fuel? How can a vehicle have no fuel? Then I realized, well, he knew there was no fuel. That's why the vehicle had stopped, and we couldn't get it started. There was no fuel. I was like, oh my. So he says, do you want me to get fuel? I says, yeah, I want you to get fuel. So he takes an old cooking oil container and off he drives away to go get fuel. In the meantime, I'm looking at the car, I'm noticed that the tires are low, and I just happen to have a tire gauge, and I go around and they all had about 18 to 19 pounds of tire pressure when they should have 30 to 35. So this isn't looking good. So anyways, I waited. The fella came back and he was able to get some fuel into the tank using a rubber hose. Yes. And finally, we get the vehicle started, and I was able to go for a test drive. So after agreeing on a price with the owner, I hired a facilitator to assist in the transfer of ownership, and we went to a notary's office Um, and that's where we did the legal transfer of the ownership. And I put it in my name. But I learned that if I wanted to sell it, because I'm married, then my wife would have to be present to do a sales transaction. So that's something a little bit different. And so the notary fee was $49. And then once that was completed, I did the transfer of funds to the seller through an interbank transfer. And so far, so good. So the next step was to pay the various sales taxes and fees. So with the facilitator, we went over to a credit union called CREA, CREA. They have a payment counter where you pay your utility bills, etc. So you produce your registration to them, and they look up all the associated fees with the vehicle. So there was the vehicle transfer fee, that was $46. Then the registration fee for the year, that's $80. The road inspection fee was $45, an ecological and sustainability fee of $14, a $2 fee for a certificate to show that there were no liens against the vehicle, an insurance fee of $80, an environmental fee of $26. Then there was a $45 late fee for which I'm not clear what it was about, or finally a sales tax of $16. So they call it the 2 per 1,000. So you pay $2 tax, sales tax per $2,000 of value of the vehicle. So all these were payable to the EMOV, EMOV, which is the Municipal Public Mobility Transit and Transportation Enterprise. So separately, there was another $14 payment to the provincial government of Azway for an environmental fee. So with all these receipts in hand, then I was able to make the appointment to the National Transportation Agency on their website to book a vehicle inspection. But in order to ensure that the vehicle is actually going to pass that inspection, then it's customary that you take it to a garage and have that same inspection done by them so that you know that you're not going to waste your time and additional monies. So I paid a garage $35. They did an emissions test. They inspected lights, tires, and the suspension. So those are the elements that have to be inspected for your vehicle registration, and I had no problems with that. So 2 days later, I met the facilitator because we had booked an appointment for the inspection. And so we went to this inspection complex, which was basically like a zoo. There were people coming and going everywhere. So I had to ensure that I had a toolkit, a fire extinguisher, traffic triangles, and a first aid kit in the trunk. Comically, you can actually rent these items just outside the inspection station, and you were basically renting them for the 40 minutes needed to inspect the vehicle and to pass. And I found it pretty weird, but I opted to buy everything. So anyways, at this inspection complex, you park your vehicle, you hand your keys at the counter. They take your receipts that you paid the associated fee at the CREA. Your vehicle is then driven into the complex where you can view the whole process in this observation area. The vehicle is then parked, and then you wait for your name to be called, and they tell you whether or not the vehicle passed inspection. So it did pass inspection, but afterwards we needed to get the documentation to say that it passed inspection. They just do that part, but you have to go somewhere else to get the actual documentation. Well, guess what? They were not open. There was nobody present in this location, so we had to find another location. So we drove for another 15 minutes to another complex. This one looked almost abandoned. There was nobody there, staff standing around, and we were incredulous because the reservation system said that all these places had been booked up. But anyway, so we drove the vehicle up to a station where a staff member used adhesive tape, scotch tape, and he would obtain impressions of the VIN number on the tape at various points inside the vehicle's engine frame. And so this process is designed to show that the vehicle is intact, that there's no fraudulent intent, that the the vehicle identification number matches the what should be for the engine number and all and so forth. So that was what they did, and then that's once it was completed and approved. Then we went into the office area where they reprinted the registration in my name, and that was $29 to get that, and with the issuance of a registration card. Then I walked over to a convenience store just next door, and for $4 they laminated it in this card, and so that was pretty much the entire process. Took about 3 days. That was a complete cost of about $400, including what I paid my facilitator. Um, but after the inspection, I drove directly to the Volkswagen dealership, as the mechanic who did the pre-inspection noted that my front shocks were leaking. So he had cleaned them up to make it look like they were fine, and that they passed inspection, which was fine. But I knew that by taking it at the Volkswagen dealership, they'd be able to evaluate everything. I had some additional problems. The windshield wiper wasn't working, etc. Um, so in the end, I needed a battery because at that consignment place, they let the battery run dead. Died over 9 months. Hadn't been kept up. The front shocks needed replacing. The rear disc brakes had deep grooves in them. I got an oil change just so I knew, how many kilometers were on that oil. So I just started fresh. So the Tiguan is listed in an Ecuadorian used car website as being valued at $18,000. I'm in for about 16 with the repairs, so I'm thinking I did pretty good. But that same vehicle in North America would be under 10. But anyways, if you made it this far in the video, I thank you for watching. I hope it shed some light on the different bureaucratic processes that we have here compared to North America. And I was told by my facilitator that it's a vastly improved system from a few years ago. So I'm just glad that I wasn't witness to the previous system. So anyways, that's it for today. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and we'll see you again.